Lesson 82. All right, evaluating functions. And then we'll do domain and range. All right, this first part is kind of review. All right, we have like a function. Okay, f of x is just a function. That's like y equals, okay? F of x equals 3x plus 2. Find f of 7. All right, so I'm like, all right, what is f of 7? Well, I just plug in 7 for x, and I evaluate it. That would be 21 plus 2 is 23. All right. Samesies with -8. You just plug it in, evaluate it. All right. If it says find f of p, all right, you're like, what is f of p? I would just plug in p for x. Okay. If it was like, what is f of x plus 1? Okay. What's f of x plus 1? I'm plugging in a binomial for x. So I have 3x plus 1 plus 2. So this would be 3x plus 3 plus 2, which would be 3x plus 5. Okay, you'd like simplify it. So you just plug in the binomial. All right, go ahead and write this one down a little bit longer, a little bit bigger. All right, so I have f of -4. So anywhere you see an x, you plug in -4, right? This x squared, use parentheses and put the little square part on the outside, okay? Then we have +3. We'll replace the x with -4 and then -5. All right, so there's 2 places you're plugging in, and then we have to do the exponents first, all right? Exponents first. So this is 2 times what? +16, all right, because it's a negative times a negative. When you plug it in, you're squaring the negative, all right? 3 times -4 is -12, and then -5. All right, now I'll multiply these. That's 32 minus 12 minus 5. So 32 minus 12 is 20. 20 minus 5 is 15. Okay, now it says find f of m squared. So same thing. We're going to plug in anywhere we see x, we'll plug in m squared. So this is actually going to be 2. Then I do a parentheses and I plug in m squared and I square it, plus 3, and then I plug in m squared and then -5. All right. So what happens is I get 2m to the 4th. Remember, these multiply here, power to a power, okay? Then I have plus 3m squared, and then I have -5. All right, that would be f of m squared. Let's see. I don't think I need to do this one. I think you guys could do that one, but we probably should do this one. All right. Yes. Yeah, that's the answer. Yeah. Okay. Now I have g of, and I'm going to plug in this binomial, m plus 2. Okay. So I've got x squared. So I'm going to plug in m plus 2, and then the square goes on the outside, -4. All right. Now, a lot of people mess this up because they try to shortcut this. You guys, this is m plus 2 times m plus 2. You really need to FOIL it out or you're going to get messed up, okay? Binomial times binomial. So that means I get m times m is m squared. And then outside is 2m. And then inside is 2m. And then the last 2 are 2 times 2, so that's +4. And then I still have the -4 that's on the outside, okay? And then we simplify. So I've got m squared. These two add together to make 4m. And then these +4 -4s cross out, all right? So this is g of m plus 2 equals that, okay? All right, domain and range. Okay, domain is what is allowed for x, okay? It's the x values of a function. Another way you want to think of this is left to right. So if you're looking at a graph, you're looking at how far left it goes to how far right it goes. Think about the x-axis, right? So that's left to right. Okay, and then the range is what numbers will you get when you evaluate the function. So what's allowed for x, that tells you what's allowed for y. Also, if you look at the graph, it's how far, I guess we could go down to up, okay? So if domain is left to right, then range is how far down to how far up the graph goes, okay? And I think it's easiest to look at the graphs or think about the graphs, all right? But we'll talk about all of them. So there are a few, and I would take good notes on this, all right? So this first one, f of x equals 3x. This is like y equals 3x. If you graph this, like just for fun, I'm going to just do a miniature little graph right here. There's a y-intercept of 0 right in the middle, okay? It's a line. I would go up 3 over 1, all right, up 3 over 1, and I would get this lovely line. It's really sad little graph right there, okay? But there's no restrictions, okay, in this. Like, we can plug in whatever we want. And if you think about the line, it's technically going forever to the left. Even though it's going down, it's still going forever to the left, okay? And so for my domain, we are going to say, hold on, let me see how I want to write this. X is an element of the reals, like this. X is an element of the reals, all right? Which really means it can be anything, okay? It could be all numbers, okay? And same with, oh, you guys, I should have done this. Domain, and then X is an element of the reals. Sorry. All right, and then range. Okay, range is your Y values, right? So how far down, how far up? Same thing. This is going forever down, forever up. There's no restrictions, so Y is an element of the reals as well, right? It's everything up, everything down. It could be all real numbers, all right? Okay, P equals 2. This is the same as Y equals 2. So I like to think about the graph, okay? Y graphs cut through the y-axis, okay, right here. Like so, if you were to graph it, okay? So for the domain, that's the x values. How far left, how far right does that go? Forever, okay? So I'm going to say x is an element of the reals. By the way, if you write reals or you do this little double bar r thing, that means reals. It's like a whole set of numbers, okay? It's like a double bar r, all right? You can write reals too. I don't care. Yep. All right, and then we have range. This one is different though, because does this go forever down and forever up? What is the only value of y in this entire thing? 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, okay? How far up and down does it go? None, it's just at 2. It's like 2. It doesn't go down or up at all, okay? So y is equal to 2. That's it. That's the only number it gets to be. Okay? All right. Then we have these special graphs, okay? The things, and all we care about is domain. They're not going to make you do range, which is really nice, all right? However, you really need to graph it, in my opinion, to look at the graph to help you with domain and range. But the one thing you can memorize with square roots, okay? With square roots, you cannot have a negative square root. Like if I said, what's the square root of negative 4? You guys like don't know that yet, okay? Because those are imaginary numbers, so they don't really exist yet in your world, okay? So if you have any kind of square root, you need to think always positive. So like what values are allowed, okay? The number 3 is actually allowed. It gives you 0. You can take the square root of 0, right? But if I plug in 4, what happens to this problem? I get a negative number. I have a problem, okay? Now if I plug in 2, is that okay? Yeah, what's 3 minus 2? 1. If I plug in 1, is that okay? Yeah. Yeah, no, it's okay. 3 minus 1 is 2. You can have positives, okay? Those are legal. We're good with positives. We don't want any negatives, though, okay? So what numbers are allowed? Anything 3 and below is allowed, okay? So for our domain, it looks like this. X is an element of the reals. such that, I know this is all new, okay? This is like set builder notation, okay? You start with, we're talking about the real numbers, okay, every time. And then we limit it. Whoa, all right? So then we're going to say, but we're only going to allow values less than or equal to 3. Because that would allow me to have positives, okay? Now, another way to do this is to take what is underneath the radical and set it greater than or equal to 0. Okay, because I need positives, all right? So if this is the case, then I can add the x over here, and I get 3 is greater than or equal to x, and then I can switch the thing around, like flip the entire thing, because if 3 is greater than x, then x is less than 3, all right? So it has to be all things less than 3. So you can take what's under the radical and set it equal to 3. Now, another thing you can do is graph it, which I really like doing. You guys just watch, because we kind of graphed the other day. Just watch this, okay? If we go to the graph thing on your calculator and I plug in square root of 3 minus x and press enter. Oh, neat, okay? How far are we going from the left to the right? We're going forever to the left, right? And we're stopping at positive 3. So it's all the values less than or equal to 3, okay? On the x. On the y, because someday you will do range, okay? On the y-axis, we're starting here and going up. So our range is actually 0, and this is slowly going up forever, okay? So it'd be 0 and up for the range. But you only have to do a domain on these for now, okay? All right, this one's a lot easier than the square rooty ones. All right, so square roots, remember, always positive. Yes?
The square roots one's going to be on.
No, not this. No, they will not be on the next test. Sorry, you'll have more time. We're going to do a review worksheet too next week on this, okay? All right, the thing you want to remember about these fractions, okay? Anytime you have a fraction with a variable in the denominator, you are not allowed to have 0 in the denominator. Can I have 5 of nothing?
No.
Right, I cannot, okay? So what value would give me 0 here? 2. So it can be anything except for 2. So you're going to say x is an element of the reals, any number, such that, okay, that means like except for x cannot equal 2. All right, no 2's. So that one's a lot easier when you have the denominator one, okay? All right, here's another domain and range question. You will get these. I like these, okay? This is, you're just going to say to yourself, self, how far left to right am I going? How far from the left to the right? So for the domain, you're always going to start with this x is an element of the reals, such that, every time, okay? For the domain. Now, you're going to say to yourself, self, how far left to right for domain? Where do I start on the x-axis? Where does this graph start? -1, and it goes up to 5, okay? Am I including -1? It's an open circle, so no. So it's going to look like this. -1 is less than x is less than or equal to 5, okay? So look at your x-axis. It starts at -1, but it's an open circle, so I don't put the line underneath, and goes all the way to 5. This one's closed. I'm including 5, so I have the line underneath, okay? Now, your range, we're going to start the same way, but range is y's. So we do y as an element of R, the reals, such that. Now you're going start at the bottom and go up on your graph, okay? So if I start at the bottom on the y, I'm looking at the numbers on the y. Where do I start? -2 up to 3. This guy goes all the way up to 3. Don't worry about that one being excluded because it's included here, okay? So I'm going from -2, and I am including it. We're going to put y in the middle this time, all the way up to 3. All right, so I'm going from -2 to 3 on the y's. Okay? Whoops. Whoops. All right, that's it. Let's try it.